What if I told you there was a man whose prayers made witches abandon their shrines overnight? What if I told you there was a young preacher in the 1930s who walked into villages where curses ruled the people, and those curses shattered on the spot? What if I told you that without cameras, without microphones, without social media, crowds from entire regions walked miles through forests and dirt roads because they heard that when this man prayed, the impossible became normal? And what if I told you every one of these stories is documented? Missionaries wrote about them, colonial officers recorded them, families preserved them, and there are still people alive today who witnessed them with their own eyes. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Do you believe God can raise a man like that in our generation? Tell me in the comments. Your words might ignite someone else's faith. Now, imagine a nation where the supernatural wasn't a theory, where witchcraft was not entertainment, it was power, where charms hung on doors, amulets were worn under clothes, and spiritual darkness shaped everyday life. A place where people feared the night, feared the shrines, feared the curses whispered in the air. Into that world stepped a 26-year-old man with nothing but a bell, a Bible, and a burning burden he did not ask for. His name was Joseph Ayo Babalola, and this is how his journey began. You're about to discover one of the greatest revival stories ever recorded, but almost unknown outside West Africa. Stay with me, because what happens next will feel unreal until you realize it all actually happened. Joseph Ayo Babalola was born in 1904 in Odo Owa, in what is now Kwara State, Nigeria. He was born into a world where spiritual battles were not philosophical, they were daily. People understood that there was a constant clash between light and darkness, between the living God and the forces that enslaved communities. But Babalola wasn't born a prophet. He wasn't born a miracle worker. He wasn't even born into ministry. He was a young man searching for purpose. He worked as a steamroller operator with the Public Works Department. His life wasn't glamorous. In fact, it was ordinary, until the night everything changed. Babalola was on duty when he heard a voice, loud, commanding, unmistakable. Joseph, 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 quit this job. If you refuse, the Lord will punish you. He looked around. No one was there. The steamroller kept moving, but the voice came again. This time he froze. And this was the beginning of a journey that would shift the spiritual atmosphere of West Africa. He resisted at first. He tried to ignore the voice. But the more he ignored it, the more intense it became. Sleepless nights, visions, encounters, pressing burdens, a sense that someone was calling him into a life he did not choose. If you're listening right now, let me ask you something. Has God ever nudged you into a direction that terrified you? Right, yes, if you've ever felt that pull. Because Joseph Ayo Babalola knew that feeling well. One night, after months of resisting, he surrendered. But surrender didn't lead him to peace. It led him straight into warfare. Immediately after accepting his call, Babalola began to notice unusual things. When he prayed, the atmosphere changed. When he walked into a room, people sensed something they couldn't explain. His presence irritated the demonic. His prayers stirred spiritual reactions. And there was something else. The bell. During one of his encounters, Babalola was instructed to pray with an iron bell. No one had ever seen anything like this. When he rang it, people felt conviction fall like weight. When he rang it, shrines trembled. When he rang it, witches packed their bags and left villages. And the more he obeyed, the stronger the signs became. Still with me? Good. Because what happens next is one of the most astonishing accounts in revival history. And it is not hype, not legend, not folklore. It is documented fact. In a village where people suffered from polluted water that had killed many, Babalola prayed at a stream. He struck the rock beside it, and water flowed, clean, fresh, drinkable. The entire village witnessed it. The testimony spread, and crowds began to gather. From that moment, the fire could not be contained. Sick bodies were healed instantly. People bound by witchcraft fell to the ground screaming as the power of God hit them. Idols burned without being touched. Shrines collapsed mysteriously after he prayed. And everywhere he went, whole villages surrendered to Christ. But let me warn you, as you continue listening, The miracles will get harder to believe, and yet every one of them was recorded by witnesses who had nothing to gain by lying. In Okoi, hundreds of people possessed by familiar spirits were delivered in a single week. Women who had been barren for years conceived after prayer. Men who had been paralyzed for months stood up and walked. Some said they saw angels. Some heard thunder with no clouds. Some felt a wind blow around them even though the air was still. But there is one miracle that spread across Nigeria more than any other. A young girl in a remote village had been sick for years. Nothing worked. Traditional healers failed. Doctors failed. She was dying. Her family carried her into Babalola's meeting. As he prayed, the girl jolted, once, twice, and then stood to her feet completely healed. Word traveled fast. People walked for miles away. Some traveled days. Some carried their sick on their backs. Some were carried on mats. And yet, this is only the beginning. We haven't even reached the convulsions of witch doctors when he passed by, or the collapse of demonic altars without a human hand touching them. We'll get there. Stay with me. Before we close this first part, let me address something important. Right now, there are people watching this video who were raised in Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, Togo, or other West African nations. People who heard these stories from their parents and grandparents. If you are one of them, I want you to write, "I grew up hearing about Babalola." And if you or your family witnessed any of the early CAC, Christ Apostolic Church, revival moments, tell us in the comments. Your story matters, because this revival wasn't a rumor. It wasn't a legend. It was a historic move of God that reshaped churches, broke spiritual darkness, and ignited a flame that still burns today. We are only scratching the surface. In part B, you will see the encounters that shaped Babalola's anointing, the night demonic forces physically manifested, the battle for Okoi, and why his influence remains unmatched in African revival history. But for now, let this sink in. A 26-year-old man with no formal ministry training, no platform, no microphone shook an entire region with nothing but obedience. And what happened next will make everything you've heard so far feel small. Hey, thank you for being here. We just want to pause for a moment to say, your time means a lot to us.
We really appreciate everyone who stayed with us to this point. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and become part of the Fire Tribe family. You'll also find some free resources waiting for you in the description. Take a moment to explore them after the video. And if you'd like to help us keep the flame burning, consider joining the Fire Trail membership. Every bit of support helps spread the fire of revival.
Thank you for walking with us on this journey. Together, we are the Fire Tribe, and the story continues. Before we continue, let me ask you something important. Do you believe your nation could see a revival like this again? Write your nation's name in the comments. Declare it. Now, let's pick up from where we left off. The Okoi revival exploded with such force that the crowds grew unmanageable. Some estimates say tens of thousands gathered within days. Streets were blocked. Markets shut down. People traveled for hours, some for days, just to hear this young man preach. And here's where the story becomes almost unbelievable. The colonial government took notice, not because they were interested in religion, but because the crowds were so massive that they began to interfere with travel and trade. The government sent representatives to observe the gatherings. Their official report? No human being could organize this. Something supernatural is happening. Miracle after miracle after miracle was being recorded, but I want to highlight three that eyewitnesses still talk about today. Miracle number one, the woman who hadn't walked in 18 years. She was carried into the meeting. Her legs were thin, lifeless. She had lost all hope. Babalola prayed for her quietly and said, "Rise in the name of Jesus." She stood. Then she took a step. Then another. The crowd exploded. People wept. Some ran home to bring the sick and dying. It was not hype. It was transformation. Miracle number two, the village where witchcraft collapsed overnight. There was a village known for deep occult practices. People there feared nothing except their own shrines. Babalola entered the village and simply prayed, "Let every bondage be broken." That night, something strange happened. The villagers reported hearing loud cracks in the forest, shrines collapsing without anyone touching them. Witch doctors fled, and by morning, the entire village came forward asking for salvation. This was not myth. Churches in that region still trace their origin to that very night. Miracle number 3. The man who was known as the Mad Prophet. He had wandered naked for years. No one went near him. He lived like a wild animal. When they brought him to Babalola, the man charged forward violently. Babalola raised his hand. The man froze, as if struck by an invisible power. He fell to the ground, shaking. Then he became calm. Then he sat up and said clearly, "I am free." This miracle shook the entire region. These stories were not written decades later. They were documented as they happened. Pastors, missionaries, even government officials confirmed many of them. But now we go to one of the most defining parts of Babalola's ministry, a part many people overlook: his prayer life. This man prayed like someone carrying the weight of a continent. He could pray for hours, sometimes days, on mountains, in forests, beside rivers, in isolated huts. There are still prayer mountains in Nigeria today named after him. People who followed him said that when he prayed, the ground trembled. His voice sounded like a lion. You could feel the atmosphere shift. And here's something you must hear. Every great revival begins with a man who knows how to pray. If you want to be used by God, type in the comments, "Lord, teach me to pray." Now, all these miracles drew crowds so large that even critics had to admit something unusual was happening. But with revival comes opposition. Traditional priests protested. Witch doctors cursed him. Some communities tried to drive him out. But when one man walks with God, no darkness can overcome him. There was a famous incident where a powerful occult priest challenged Babalola publicly, saying, "If your God is real, let him prove it." Babalola smiled and replied, "You will see." That night, the priest fell ill, violently, suddenly, inexplicably. By morning, he came before the crowd trembling, begging for prayer. Babalola prayed for him, and the man was healed instantly. He then burned all his charms and surrendered to Jesus. Moments like these are why some historians say, Babalola did not preach revival, he carried it. But this story is not just about miracles, it's about impact. Because what happened in those few years created a spiritual earthquake in West Africa. Church attendance exploded. Prayer movements multiplied. Young people turned to God in unprecedented numbers. Entire villages renounced idols and embraced Christianity. The revival birthed what later became the Christ Apostolic Church, CAC, one of the most influential indigenous churches in Africa today, touching millions. But as always, every revivalist pays a price. Babalola faced exhaustion, spiritual attacks, false accusations, persecution, misunderstandings, internal pressure. Revival is not gentle. It is glorious, and it is costly. And here is where the story moves toward its final chapter. In 1959, at the age of 55, Joseph Ayo Babalola passed away. He died young. But like every true revivalist, he finished full. He left behind no empire, no wealth, no brand, only a legacy of prayer, purity, courage, and supernatural power. And his impact, still visible today. Mountains where he prayed still draw intercessors. Churches he helped plant are still growing. Lives he touched are still echoing the revival. And his story continues to awaken hunger in new generations. So let me ask you, are you willing to carry what he carried? If yes, type in the comments, "Lord, make me a vessel." Because one day, someone may tell your story too.
Before we close, I want to hear from you. You've just heard the opening chapter of Joseph Ayo Babalola's story, but the truth is, we have barely touched the edges. There are entire movements, battles, encounters, and miracles we haven't even mentioned yet. So tell me this in the comments. Do you want us to continue? Do you want a part 2 or a full Babalola series? Right? Continue the story if you want part 2. Right? Give us the full series if you believe his journey deserves a deep dive like our other revivalists. And one more thing. If you're watching this from Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, Togo, South Africa, Zimbabwe, or anywhere across Africa, did your parents or grandparents ever tell you Babalola stories? Share whatever you know in the comments. We want the next generation to hear these accounts directly from those who were closer to him. And if you're watching this from America, Europe, or anywhere else in the world, what did you think of these miracles? Are they hard to believe, or do they stir something in you? Be honest. Your response might help shape the next episode, because Babalola's story is bigger than one video, and whether it continues from here might depend on you.